Welcome back to Make It Simple TV. I am Heather Porter. I am a co-founder of Autopilot Your Business. And in these shows, Andrew, the other co-host and co-founder, we have a chat with amazing people from our past and present, experts that we've met all over the world, just to chat about life and business lessons, because these people are truly phenomenal. And we hope that the next 30 minutes will inspire you to either feel uplifted about your day and your business and your life, or get some fantastic little takeaways that you can start to action right now. So before I introduce our amazing guest of this episode, I want Andrew to come in and say hello. Hello, Andrew McCauley. How are you?
Hey, Heather Porter. I am great. It's another episode of Make It Simple TV, and it's going to be a fun episode today. I'm looking forward to chatting with our guest. She's had a wealth of knowledge, financial side of things, but also some interesting travel things that I'm looking forward to digging into when we get to meet her in a few minutes.
I know, and we have traveled to quite a few countries combined. We're probably up to around, how many, Andrew, would you say?
I think I'm up to 50-something.
Yeah, you're more than me. I'm in the high 30s, I think. So I can't wait to ask her how many she's been to. So now our guest, Zoe Lamont from 10,000 Girl. I actually met her very recently at a Girl Power event here in Sydney. Girl Power is something that she and I both spoke at. It was an amazing dinner party, and she is just a firecracker, and she has such an amazing vision and mission of what she's doing with 10,000 Girl. Which is essentially a financial company for women to help, financial education company for women to really help them understand their finances, how to get out of debt, and how to get ahead. Now, she also has an amazing history of travel and humanitarianism, so we're going to have a little chat about that. So welcome to the show, Zoe Lamont.
Thanks, Heather and Andrew.
It's so good to have you. Now, before we start to get started about 10,000 Girl, I'm really interested in where you came from, because your countries that you've been to and what you've done in the past. Why don't we start there? Why all the travel, and what have you gotten up to in all these amazing countries?
It's a funny question because I always laugh when people say, so what's your background? And I have a total dog's breakfast background. And I suppose in terms of the travel, I never knew what I wanted to do when I left school or when I left uni. And so travel seemed like a good opportunity because at least you're going to learn and, you know, meet new people and see new things. And so I got a one-way ticket to London, but then after about 6 weeks of cruising there, I was like, I want to do more than, you know, just kick about as a backpacker. And so I signed up to, well, I did some research about volunteering and doing some humanitarian work, and I was like, oh, I don't want to pay thousands of dollars to be a volunteer. So I found this quite small organization, and I approached them, and I gave them a couple of $100, and they gave me 4 names and contact details of people around the world running interesting local programs. And so I ended up buying a around the world ticket and literally like turning up in Africa and being met by these amazing people that took us from South Africa to Zambia, and we picked up some few things in South Africa before we left, like some paints and a few other things, and then worked in a a community surrounded by a hospital. So I did get thrown in, and you know, as a white girl, people just think that, you know, you've got you're a doctor pretty much. And so there were some horrific moments where I was given way too much responsibility in a hospital as a 21-year-old gadabout. But I suppose in those situations you just dig in and you use whatever you can draw on, and you just do what needs to be done, because I literally had arms full of scabies babies and, you know, girls my age with malaria that had fevers so high that, you know, that they, you know, they weren't going to survive, and these horrific things that something kicks in and makes you survive. And so I did a few projects. I was living along the Thai-Burmese border for a while, which have to say was probably the most heart-wrenching time with illegal sort of migrant children, where their parents had been brought across the border by the Thai factories, and their parents were being fed and watered by the factories, but they weren't being paid anything, so they had no means to, support their families. And so there was this string of schools that had all the kids that, schools, but they were really just buildings with kids in them. There wasn't a lot of structure around it, but and then they were just run by volunteers. So again, I turn up, and the man who was running this school disappeared, and I was left with these like 40 or 50 little Burmese kids, and we had to go to the markets each day and get food and wash them all and feed them all and find something to do in the day. And then on the weekends we had like 3 bicycles between 40 kids, and we used to go out and find 1 or 2 of their sets of parents and take them a few onions and rice, and it was absolutely insane. And then I worked at a school in southern India for a while, which was also an incredible experience. For anyone who's been to India, you'll totally understand. And then a project on an island off Fiji. So it was an amazing couple of years and totally transformed my life and perspectives and way of thinking.
My gosh. So wow. Being to some of those amazing developing countries as well myself, I know what you're saying when it's just a room with kids and not a lot of structure. How have you taken that past that you've come from and now gone into 10,000 Girl? Why are you driven into actually working with women in Australia to help them with their financial, their past and their future?
So I had an interesting transition when I came back to Australia, and there was a big part of me that just wanted to go back and keep working, but there was this other part of me, and it was really inspired by my dad, who, I got a bit sort of down in the dumps for a year or so, and I was like, the world there's too much going on, and it's buggered. Like and I really could only see the dark and the unfairness and and Dad actually said to me one day, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to be one of the people that just complain, or are you going to do something? And, as someone in your early 20s, and you've got an education and you've got all the resources at your fingertips if you've got access to the internet, and so it really gave me a wake-up call to stop sort of looking at the dark side and start looking at solutions and what could be most effective way to contribute in the world. And that's how I was involved at that time in a few different businesses, and seeing businesses and people who planned and businesses and people who didn't plan, and the differences in their lives, whether it be the quality of their relationships or their ability to communicate clearly about who they were and what they wanted, and definitely their financial picture. And I just saw these strong links from planning to of how planning can build our capacity to be, I suppose, contributing or sort of big citizens. And so I started running these little back of the beer coaster workshops with my girlfriends, because at the same time I was thinking, there are so many resources here, but if we don't get taught about money and planning skills around the kitchen table, and we don't really get taught about them at school, where do you have these conversations? And my boyfriends and stuff would talk about shares and business, but the girls, we never spoke about that kind of stuff. And so I was running these back at the beer coaster workshops with my girlfriends, and we'd make vision boards and we'd talk about our dreams and plans, but money kept coming up as a barrier. And so that's sort of the first seeds of how the 10,000 Girl campaign started, because we realized that if the more people who had resources, so by resources I mean like an income of any size and access to learning resources, then if you had a clear plan and if you understood the financial services industry and the language and what you needed to do to achieve certain goals, then you increase your capacity to give in an enormous way. So that's how we linked it. We linked the programs back to microfinance and show that each time a woman goes through what we call our 6-step challenge, she contributes, and her group contributes a microloan for a woman in, say, India or the Philippines or Timor to start a new business. And so, one, it shows the value of $100, and two, it shows that if we, in Australia where we are there's an abundance of amazing opportunities, if we can all just stretch ourselves that little bit more, which is sort of an easy step to do, then the impact we can have is just tremendously more than, say, me working on the streets in Africa. So that's sort of how the thinking came about of what to do with my life.
Hey, Zoe, you talk about microfinancing and microloans and that sort of stuff, and I think from memory, microloans possibly originated in India anyway. But I was only talking about microloans yesterday to someone over here in the States, and they said, "Oh, does it happen in the States and in the developed world?" And I think it's a pretty big business. Do you want to just give us a rundown of what is a microloan, how much is it, and how does that sort of whole process work?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose let's take India for an example. A microloan can be as small as $100 or $200, and it can be used to, often the examples that are easy, sort of tangible to understand, is that if a woman can buy some seeds to sow on her land, or a goat, or a sewing machine, or a wok with some chicken, or anything that can start to generate an income, then that's sort of the basics behind microfinance and how it works in, like, let's say, developing countries. In Australia and potentially in the States, I think microfinance is used slightly differently. Obviously, our economy is quite different to that village sort of trade, and so they do use microfinance a bit, and in some of the Indigenous communities in Australia as well, to help people do things like buying washing machines, or things that are sort of basic human needs and that help with hygiene and health and increasing basic standards of living. And I know a few programs where microfinance is used in Australia to help people start businesses, but it's slightly different to that in India or the Philippines and how it works there. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does, and I love that whole terminology, back in the beer coastal workshops. I love that idea. Is that just a term you use, or is it something that you sort of say, let's go down to the pub and talk about finance over a glass of wine or a beer? Is that how it works, or is it just is it something more than that?
Well, it's actually both, because we do run a lot of our workshops in pubs and cafes, and I think that it's very important to have that social element. And we also, call a couple of the exercises that we do, this is my back of the beer coaster personal investing plan, or because we're not providing financial advice, and we're not saying this is the the be-all or end-all, but we're saying there is so much that as individuals we can create ourselves and get clear on ourselves to then potentially take to a financial planner or a mortgage broker or whoever you need and have a much more informed conversation. So that's why it sort of lightens it and says that, this is what I want to do, and then you can go and, approach the experts per se, and to get help with your plans.
Just a question on the title, 10,000 Girl. What does that mean?
Also another interesting question we get. So I think in the beginning there are a couple of reasons why we got to that. One, 10,000 seems so many women, and we're actually just about to crack our 10,000 girls. So secretly we're doing a bit of rebrand thinking at the moment, and maybe potentially wrapping up the 10,000 Girl campaign and going on with the next phase. But and then there's also like a Tao philosophy around when 10,000 things come together. There's a sort of a some change that occurs and a shift. And so we know that it's not about reaching every woman in Australia, but it's about reaching enough that they can impact their communities and their families and their workplaces, and and so you create enough of a splash for there to be a ripple effect that goes on.
Very cool, very cool. Hey, I'm going to quickly ask you a question. What is one tool or resource that you can't live without right now in your day-to-day operations of your business?
I think maybe it's the calendar and linking it with the phone and the. I know that that's not a cool tool, but it is vital.
Do you know, Zoe, just the other day I finally hooked my Google Calendar with my iPhone. I synced them, so now I have all of our multiple business calendars coming through. So I know exactly what you're saying. It is vital.
Well, mine disappeared for a couple of months, and I went into the Apple Store the other day and they resynced it, and I was like, oh, my life is back.
Yeah, we've been waiting for a long time for Heather to sync her calendar. This is coming from technology who can write some of the best websites in the world but can't work out how to sync a calendar.
I love it.
Don't say that out loud. I'm only human.
Delete that.
Too late.
So Zoe, what is one thing that people don't know about you, that most people don't know about you?
Oh, see, I find this such a difficult question. I've been battling with this answer because I am such an open book, and I share so much in our workshops and within my friend circle that I honestly can't think of something.
I'm going to change the question slightly. Can I change this? I'm going to change it to what is one thing that people don't know about you while you were traveling? What's something you did while you were traveling that you really haven't told anyone, or many people don't know about when you're traveling, whether it's Africa or Asia or India or wherever? Anything that can spring to mind, you think, wow, I never really told people about that particular episode or that story.
One time I was walking along, and in the village I lived in India, there was sort of these humps, and the sewage ran along the side of the road, and the buses, as anyone who would have seen in India, there's people sitting on the roof, there's people hanging out the doors and the windows, and there was a bus that came past, and a man was hanging out, and and he had a suitcase pointing out, and he knocked me off the thing into the sewage, and I was up to my thighs there were worms, and it was the most horrendously disgusting, and I had to walk through the village back to the school. I had to walk through the school. I lived on the roof of the school, and we showered in a bucket. So it wasn't even like I could have a hot shower to get all the little worms and poo off. It was so gross.
Maybe I wish I had nothing.
Another day in India.
Wow. So, on a lighter note, what are 3 things that you can think of that anybody who's listening or watching this right now can start to use in their life or business to make change? So these would be 3 tips of yours that you can share based on your experience.
Well, I guess I've already shared my passion of planning, so I'm going to start there. That I think that no matter what age or stage, or whether it's for business or whether it's for your personal life, I think that having clear goals written down is so irrefutably important, and that sometimes you don't always need to. So I suppose that's the first one, having really clear goals written down. And then the second one is that you don't actually have to know exactly how you're going to get there, but I think you need to know just 1 or 2 actions, the first thing. So whether it's going out and talking to someone or doing some research, or the first couple of actions, because they're the ones that are going to give you clarity for the next couple of actions, and sort of letting it unfold. So I think having bold goals written down, and then having really clear sort of, one thing that you could do in the next week, you know, each week to make it happen. And then I think the third one is definitely surrounding yourself by cool people, because I think that that is just everything in the world, that we're never going to know everything or be you know, be everything. And so to find people in your life that complement your skills and strengths and perspectives, I think is just so totally valuable.
Love it. I love it. I love it. What's a quote or a mantra that you'd like to live your life by?
I think that it is about trusting. So like I said about those goals, that you don't need to know like exactly how you're going to get anywhere or how something's going to work out, but trusting that everything always does work out. And I think that, you know, if there's business owners listening, that we all know when we run our own businesses that it can be very easy to get worked up about, you know, and very, you know, deep in a plan or an idea or something that's going on, but actually to widen back sometimes and think and just know and trust that everything always works out.
Very, very good. So Zoe, see, the thing I love about business owners is, and you're one as well, is the fact that when we go into business, it's oftentimes for a much bigger thing than just what the business actually does and the people that it touches. So for you personally, what's the legacy that you want to leave? What do you personally want to be known for?
So I think this is an interesting question, because I could sort of take the normal answer and say, oh, you know, I want to inspire people's lives and help them to believe in themselves and to act on their dreams. But I think it's really actually much more simple than that. And I just want to be a happy, positive presence in whoever's life that I come across and share along the way. I think that it is that simple, just smiling and laughing as much as possible.
It's great. You know, Andrew, I know what I love about our show when we do this, we ask amazing people the question about legacy and you know, the resource that they want to have in their life all the time. We get such very diverse answers, don't we? I mean, some of them are as you know, amazing as a calendar all the way upwards to intuition. But I like that you said that, because I think that when people get presented with the question of legacy, it's like a very weighted, heavy feeling question, and a lot of people get caught up in, oh gosh, you know, how am I ever going to live that big to make so much of a presence? But the very fact that you said just to live light and happy right now is a good reminder to everybody to listen to this right now, that the fact is, be present, and whatever you're doing right now can actually do much more than just dwelling on the question, what do I want to be when I grow up, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Totally true.
So let's see, what's one big life or business lesson that you have learned that you'd like to share with everybody?
I think definitely early in the piece, and I still get in trouble for this today, but this is what I try not to have too many irons in the fire, because I even though I love that saying, bite off as much as you can and chew like crazy, and I love that sort of idea as well, but there is also a line that I have realized that when I am just focusing on, you know, 2 or 3 key things and doing them well, rather than having 8 or 10 things going on and, you know, sort of not doing everything 100%. And I can see through different times in my life where I have, you know, nailed things is where I've been much more focused than the other times.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We you know, Heather and I went through that scenario late last year. We sort of looked at all the things we were doing, and we were doing a whole lot of different things, and we said, what's giving us the best results right now? And because we do have too many things going on, let's put a few of these on the back burner so that we're not scattergunning our approach to stuff, and let's concentrate on some of the cool things that we need to get done and really sharpening our focus. And I think that was our motto for this year, was keep it simple, and it's the whole motto of the TV show, is keep it simple, because that was exactly what we sort of found out was, don't try and do too much all at once, because you might think you're achieving, but at the end of the day, you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere, and you're not getting any closer to your goal, your intended goal. So we went through that process at the start of the year, and we just I think we're finding it a lot better now because we're able to get some results quicker now, and we're doing things much faster. Wouldn't you say, H?
I would, and just this morning I was thinking kind of about that and about time and about stress, and I think the stress that most of us put ourselves in is self-inflicted based on the fact that we think we should be doing so much more, where actually less is more. And it got me thinking about how when you're a kid and time seems to go so slowly, I think the reason why is because we live so much in the present when we're younger, whereas as we get older and we start to stack responsibilities, and I should be doing this and I should be doing this, all we're thinking about is just chaos and hectic energy. So by the end of the day, you feel like you still haven't gotten anything done. Where did the day go? Rather than, as Zoe just suggested, simplifying, focusing on one thing at a time, and then you feel like you're actually doing so much more with your life rather than running around in circles.
I love a principle or rule that helps you do that. You know the Pareto principle, like the 80-20 rule? And I love, sometimes I use that, and I often talk about that in different workshops and different programs, that if you list anything, whether it's all your products or whether it's all your activities or whether it's just simply your to-do list for the day that feels overwhelming, and look at, okay, usually you'd get 80% of your results from 20% of your efforts, so where should you be spending that 20% of your efforts? And I think that's a really tangible and proven concept that can be really practically used day to day.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, before we wrap up, quick question. How many countries have you been to, and what's been your favourite one?
Oh, it's such a hard question. I think I've been to about 56 or 57 countries, and, can I have two?
Yeah, you can have two. I'll give you three if you like.
My favourite country to just adventure through, like not working or living, just pure adventure and fun and immersion of sensory delights, is Mexico.
Really?
Loved it.
Just over my back fence.
Pardon?
It's just over my back fence.
Yeah, I know. You could really just pop over on the weekend.
I can. Literally, we can do that. I can go down there for a taco at dinner time and come back and be in bed.
Oh my gosh, that would be my heaven. I just loved how, there was music on every corner, and literally we were just invited into people's homes. Like, we made so many friends. It was like, Viva Mexico! And I loved it. And then I think that my sort of an all-time favorite group of people are the Burmese, because they just blow me away with their humility and their resilience and their survival mechanisms, and everything about them are just sensationally beautiful people.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Yeah, thank you as well. What's next for 10,000 Girl? You said that you were doing a little bit of rebranding and rethinking. What can we look forward to in your future coming up soon?
Well, I am really excited about 10,000 Girl, because obviously when we set the goal at the beginning, we just never thought we would get there. Like, it was a pipe dream, and now we're getting there. And so that is extremely exciting, and we're going to look at just, the programs and are going to stay the same, but we're just looking at shifting the brand to be slightly more sophisticated and slightly more able to be an ongoing, support programs and community, rather than the 10,000 Girl campaign was always like sort of this 3-year project, I suppose. And so we've realised that it's more than a 3-year project, and that the most useful thing we can do is develop it so it can be embedded in different communities and different groups, and it can be an ongoing resource.
So if people want to find out more about 10,000 Girl and you, where should they go?
Well, the 10,000 Girl website is a good place to start. It is a little wordy, but hopefully we're going to make it better soon. And so it's www.10, the number 10, and then 1000 girl spelled out, so THOUSANDGIRL.com.
Fabulous.
We'll
Andrew,
have those
any
in the
last
show
words?
notes, right, H? We'll have those websites in the show notes.
Oh, yeah. We always put the links and bios and more information about our guests on our website, makeitsimple.tv, and you'll see Zoe's episode there with photos of her, past replay of this episode, as well as that information, so you can just come on over there and have a click and learn more about her. So, Andrew, as we wrap up, would you have any last words for our listeners and viewers?
No, thank you, Zoe, so much for sharing all that cool information, cool stories. I love those stories. I love travel stories because I'm a big traveler myself, so I really enjoy listening to other people's travel stories. Sometimes we think we tell travel stories and people don't like to hear them, but I certainly do. So thanks for sharing, and I love what you're doing with women in business and financial side of things. It's well needed, as you said, and really wish you all the best for that. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Lovely to speak with you.
Thanks so much, Zoe. Thanks again, Andrew, and thanks to all of you guys who are watching us. Pop on by makeitsimple.tv, and we will see you in next week's episode. Have an amazing rest of your day and evening wherever you are.